you got to kind of imagine where these two doctors' heads are at. I mean, if anybody came up with anything in the early 80s that would impact AIDS, I mean, it'd be front page news, right? So they're thinking they're going to be on the cover of Time magazine over this. So they compiled all of this research and they presented this at a symposium in the mid-80s. And they were virtually laughed out of this symposium. Because mannose is a long-chain carbohydrate. It's a sugar molecule. Now, all biochemistry has told us all these years that all carbohydrates, they convert to glucose and they provide energy at the cell level. I mean, it's kind of like the Rodney Dangerfield of nutrition. I mean, it gives you energy, but who cares, right? So they've never really given it the respect. And here was a sugar molecule that was having absolute profound effects on the human immune system. And they didn't even really look at it. So these two researchers, really what they continued doing was they were trying to look at where does mannose come in the body? What does it do? How does it affect the body? So that's what they were continuing their research on. At the same time that these two researchers were doing their research, there was another doctor, a Dr. Günter Blobel, a German researcher doing his research right here in the United States. Now, Dr. Blobel was analyzing the body at the cellular level. Now, let me back up just a minute. You know, in the early 90s, the technology was birthed to where you could look at an individual cell under a microscope. I mean, prior to the 90s, there wasn't a powerful enough scope to really look at one individual cell. And if you ever looked at a cell under a very intense microscope, it kind of looks like a round, hard piece of candy that maybe a child has been sucking on and drops out of their mouth and it rolls around for a few days and you find it underneath the coffee table and you pick it up and it's all gooey and sticky and it's got all this hair-like stuff coming off of it. That's exactly what a human cell looks like under a very intense microscope. It looks like it's growing hair, kind of like a cotton ball. It's got all this fuzz coming off of it. Well, Dr. Blobel of Germany identified what was called cell surface proteins, which are nothing but little protein molecules that surround the surface of every single cell in the human body, every cell. And that connected to it was an address or a zip code of molecules. And through this little address or this zip code of molecules here is how the human body facilitated communication. It's how the good guy recognized the bad guy, could get the immune system in to kill it, or in some cases recognized the good guy that was damaged in need of repair. Because Dr. Blobel's theory was that healthy cells make healthy tissue. Healthy tissue makes healthy organs. Healthy organs make healthy systems. And if your systems are working synergistically together and are healthy at the cellular level, then you don't have a health problem. Unless you get run over by a big truck. And that's trauma and injury. We're not talking about that. You know, I believe that the emergency room is where God works through man's hands. I mean, there's miracles by the second in trauma and injury. There are no miracles in illness and disease today. It's a virtual catastrophe across the board. Dr. Blobel of Germany won the Nobel Prize for Medicine in October of '99 for what I just said. So this is not hype, it's pure fact. It's just that most people don't know this. But Dr. Blobel won the Nobel Prize for Medicine for the discovery of cell surface proteins that in conjunction with an address or a zip code of molecules is how the body facilitated communication, that's how your immune system works, and that's how the body heals itself. That's a pretty profound statement, isn't it? Now we know the body heals itself, right? I mean, you go in for surgery and the doctor tells you, go home, take it easy, give your body time to heal. Or you drop a brick on your foot and a few choice words and a week or two later, all of a sudden that toe heals. So, I mean, we know the body heals itself. And medical science has known that too. They just didn't know how the body did that. And how the body did that is what the Nobel Prize was awarded for. So let's back up to these two researchers from Dallas. They're analyzing these little addresses or these little zip codes of molecules that surround all cells. And if you blew one of those little things up under a big microscope, what they found was that it was nothing but a protein molecule with a whole bunch of little molecules attached to it. Now there might have been, thousands and thousands of molecules on this molecular chain right here attached to this protein molecule, but they identified that all of these were all one of 8 individual molecules. One of them they identified right off the bat. Mannose, the molecule discovered in aloe vera in 1981. Secondly, they identified galactose and glucose, and there's a way overabundance of that in our diet. But it took them until 1996 to actually break the code and identify the other 5. And in 1996, they identified all 8 of these as what they call monosaccharides. Mono means one, saccharide means sugar. Simple sugars that your body utilizes for the production of what they call glycoproteins. Glyco is a Greek word for sugar, meaning sweet, attached to a protein molecule. Glycoproteins are these little addresses or these zip codes of molecules that surround all cells in the human body. Now, when they begin to look at this and really identify what these were, they found that of the 8 essential sugars that your body has got to have. Now, I want to make that real clear. You have to have all 8 of these sugars. But of the 8 essential sugars that your body must have, they found that there are only 2 of them that are common in our civilized diets around the world. The other 6 are virtually gone. And the only 2 that are left in the diet is galactose and glucose, and there's a way overabundance of that. But the other 6 are gone due to mass commercial farming, green harvesting, worst of all, the way they process and strip our grains and processed foods nowadays, as well as preservatives. Preservatives kill the live component in food, and only in a live, pre-digested form from the plant will they work in the human body. Now, maybe I ought to back up here real quick. I'm talking about sugar, right? And, my wife's a diabetic, and I'm hearing this story, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, we can't do this. This is sugar. Well, I want to make sure people understand that there's over 200 carbohydrates, around 209 carbohydrates, at least that we know of in nature. And for the most part, most of them are called digestible carbohydrates. Like your pasta and your bread and your baked potato. A white baked potato with no butter, no sour cream, nothing on it, will convert to about a 1/4 cup of sugar in the body. It's called high glycemic. So most carbohydrates are just that. They are digestible. The body converts them to glucose for sugar. But these 8 essential sugars are what they call pre-digested, meaning live in the plant. And in live in the plant, they go immediately to the body for the production of glycoproteins. The body doesn't convert them or digest them like you would think of table sugar or pastas or breads for people counting carbohydrates or diabetics or anything like that. So they have nothing to do with sugars or carbohydrates, in that arena. These are totally different. Now, most of the galactose and glucose that's still in our diet, most of that is digestible because, it's not live in the plant. What does the good book tell us? Eat from the fields, right? And for, hundreds of years, that's the way we ate. And today we don't. We started with the birth of the TV dinner and right on up to what we have fast foods and all this stuff today, which this stuff is just virtually gone from our diet and from our food chain. And I even have a gentleman that deals a lot in the agricultural industry that will tell you that over 50% of the farmlands in the United States is virtually sterile. There's no minerals or nutrients in the soil to actually feed the plants. So we've got a real problem here with our food chain.